Good evening. We are here Tuesday for a much later Bronze Age than we normally do because my mic didn't work yesterday, so we have to do a reshoot, as it were. Those of you guys who are in the chat lobby, let me know, please, about my mic before I start doing this again, because, oh man, doing it a third time would be kind of aggravating. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Fighting off just the last little tiny bit of a cold. So we're going to do it slightly differently tonight because normally I don't watch the replays ahead of time. So I don't know what I'm going to watch, but obviously because we did this yesterday, I've seen both of these replays, so it'll probably go a little faster, and I'll kind of point out some things off of memory ahead of time so we can pinpoint them during the course of the game. Thanks, Nash. I appreciate it. And once we get in there, I'm going to have to adjust the replay volume levels. For some reason, the old the old replays always have a funky volume. Of course, now I'm getting none. Now I'm getting no volume on my end. That's weird. All right, let's do this. Alright, well, we're going to pause it real quick so I can make sure the sound on my end is going, because it's not. Oh, there it is. Oh, well, that would explain. No? Okay, well, let me know if you guys are getting the sound. I am not. It's very weird.
The battle begins in 10
the game
seconds.
sound. So while I try to figure this out, in this game in particular, this is a bronze level game. Our hero is Thorn on Valla. And the Control S. Well, that enabled it. I'm still not getting it on mine.
5,
So
4, 3, 2, 1.
You didn't. That's a good possibility too. Man, I'm just having. Wait, you're hired, Nash. It's a good thing you're here. There we go. That did it. All right, great.
Begin.
It's a little louder than you. Okay, good. That's what I wanted to know because I can turn it down now. Now that I can hear it on my end, we're good to know. Good to go. Okay, now everything is actually working. Fantastic. So, the Valla player, Thorn, who submitted this replay yesterday, or over the weekend, I should say, there were three things that I highlighted at the end of the replay that nobody saw because my volume was not working. Is that one, lower level players, the number one thing you can do to improve your play is simply to die less. That's a really big deal. I think it's one of the major differences between low level and higher level games is simply the number of kills in the game is going to be lower in the higher level games. There's two reasons Thorn dies a little bit too much in this game. Number one is harder to work on because, that's positioning within a 5-on-5 team fight. And that's a little bit harder to work on because no two comps are always the same. Maybe one Hero League game you'll have a tank that's really good about peeling and just really sets the team up nicely, and maybe another game you have a tank that's just not as good. Same thing with healers. So that's one that's a little bit harder to work on, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. Number two is simply choosing when to actually fight, because there are times that you just don't want to be fighting, and by choosing to take those poor engagements, you're sacrificing your life, and that's not an optimized decision. So that second one, thorn is what we really, really want you to hone in on, and we're going to focus on in this analysis, is simply choosing your engagements better. But let's go back to the first one, because that second one, the choosing your engagements better, I'm going to highlight during the course of the game. This first one I'm going to do a little bit less, but we're going to talk to that in the general terms. When I started doing this stream, I really wanted to focus on like basic stuff. If you're going to be a basketball player, you need to know how to shoot a free throw and make a layup and do a chest pass and a bounce pass before you start running the pick and roll and working on your post game, right? So that's the same thing here. We want to make sure that your foundation level stuff is solid so you can learn the more advanced stuff as you go higher in, climb higher in the ladder. So you have a really good team comp for kind of a traditional comp. You have 2 frontliners, and that's Dahaka and Thrall, 2 backliners, Zagara and Valla, and your healer is Lili. So as Valla, you want to make sure that you don't cross that front line if you can avoid it and put yourself into a vulnerable position. Valla, because she's not particularly long range, can be susceptible to doing that, so you really need to be aware of your positioning in a team fight. And your stutter stepping through the game is a little bit sporadic. What it looks to me like is it's something you're working on, because in situations where it's a little easier to do, you do it really nicely, but then when you get into these team fights, more convoluted stuff, it seems like it's not quite second nature yet, so if you stop thinking about it, you stop doing it. So really, really hone in on making that stutter stepping second nature. In this game, Li Ming kind of wails on you a couple times, and if you were stutter stepping, that would be harder for her to do that. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on. Oh, and your build in this game was fine. That's kind of the de jure default Valla build right now, which is nice. Your kills were really great this game. Your damage was really great this game. So what we're going to focus on is positioning and choosing your engagements more carefully. And then we'll also highlight a couple times when you don't stutter step in the midst of a team fight. Make sure we're zoomed out. Okay, great. So hopefully my volume is still good. And let's get the show on the road. So what happens here in the early game is they kind of cheese bot, and you're one of your few teammates to respond to this. And this example of you running down here, you responding to this is great, and I'm glad that you choose to go the safe way back this way. You make sure that you're safe behind your fort. And now I'm going to highlight the first instance of choosing engagements more carefully. Okay, and it's going to be right here. Now, as long as you're behind this wall and poking, and you're that's fine. But you're going to see this front wall go down. Right now, right here. At this point, we're going to analyze the situation, and the situation is your thrall is pretty close to dead, so he can't do anything for you. You're at below half health, and they have 4 people. So sometimes the best thing to do is nothing, and that's the situation here. This is one of those instances where you just can't fight. You aren't going to 1v4 them, right? Because Thrall's useless. He's almost dead. And I think he dies here in a second anyway. So if you're trying to 1v4 at any time in the game, it's a bad idea, and just go do something else. Of course, you're going to lose this fort. Does that suck? Yes. But you die and you lose it anyway. If you would have left and gone something else, they would have still lost it, but you wouldn't have died. So this is your first instance of choosing an engagement poorly that leads to a death. So anytime you're 4-on-1, just leave.
The team draws first blood.
And Thrall shouldn't have been down there either. I mean, you guys should have been down there, but somewhere up over here. This is when you ask your teammates for help. I mean, they're losing a lot of soaks in top lane. Zagara will start taking this wall down up here. Just because you're losing one lane in of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. You guys, by putting 4 people here in the bottom, they're giving up other parts of the map. Now, even right here, you still know there's 4 of them, and there's only 2 of you. Even this, I wouldn't be going hard into. Because the other thing, too, is the fort's dead, so what are you defending? Like, what are you fighting over? See? And look at the health bars. They could have stayed up in here. Their health bars compared to yours, they could have stayed up in here and fought this still. So that was example. So far this game we have one death that could have been prevented by simply not fighting her. You know, and look, despite the fort, you guys are almost dead even in experience, and the reason that is because red team committed so hard to the bottom, they're losing out on top. Look at what Zagara is doing here by herself because they committed so hard to bottom. Something you want to try to do if you can is, you know about when the objectives come up. As you play the game more, you'll get a feel for it. And this is a good example. Thorn's doing it. He is at the objective on time, which is important, and with health and mana to spare. So that was what I was going to harpen. Make sure you're showing up with good health and good mana. Have all of your... Try to save... That wasn't bad, but your E is really your only escape, so if you use it to get in there, you're putting yourself in a really hairy spot. So all of this is well and good. You just need to make sure that if you E aggressively, the vault, that you're not going to kill yourself. So just that's to be aware of. Her vault is primarily an escape tool because of the bonus damage on the auto attack. You can use it as a finisher. You just need to make really sure if you're going to use your vault aggressively that you're not putting yourself in a situation that you're going to die, because then you also don't have... By the way, this is another example of fighting when you shouldn't. On Brawl. This is example number 2 of when you shouldn't be fighting. I think you leave anyway, so...
I grow tired of your petty squabbling.
Alright, so once again, as soon as the tribute spawn, you fly up there. That's fantastic. And you go safely, rotating through this area as a squishy... No! Oh, you double back. Rotating through this area as a squishy character when you know they're rotating can be very dangerous sometimes. This is a really awkward engagement for your team because you arrived so piece metal and so split up. You did a pretty good job, Thorn, of not committing hardcore until your team was there, which is great. This actually, how you handled this kind of awkward engagement by your team is probably one of the highlights of the game for you. You were patient, you didn't overly commit, you waited for your team to get here, and you got a couple kills for your trouble. So that was really nicely done. This is definitely something that needs to be done. However, this is a lot of free damage that you're taking. So be aware, those minion waves hurt. I think you tap the well here, and when you're this close, don't waste the tap. Just go to the Hall of Storms and fill all the way up. I mean, you literally could have walked back and done it.
Hero slain. Shall we see who gathers enough tribute this time?
And once again, and you're really diligent in this early game about getting to that tribute on time, which is fantastic. Now your Dahaka does something silly here. He goes for the vision. Okay, this, I remember this very explicitly. This is the second instance of simply not leaving that leads to your death. And it's right here. This moment right here that you need to realize that you're going to lose this engagement. Number one, you can see Li Ming, and her body language is telling you that she has help, because I know you can't see everybody. This is what you can see. So you can see Li Ming, you can see she's got Brightwing teleporting in, and you need to learn to read body language. The way Li Ming aggressively just walks in here, her team is behind her. Your Zagara is way back here. Your Thrall is way back here. Once this happens, and they put this wedge between you and your tank, I would be leaving right now. See, this is the vault forward. Now that leaves you without your escape. This is death number 2 that could have been avoided if you simply left once you realized how how much of a disadvantage your team was at. So that aggressive vault leaves you with no escape whatsoever. So 2 deaths this game that could have been prevented by simply being more aware of the situation. And in this case, your teammates did get here just a little bit late. So if you guys would have backed up a little bit, now granted Dahaka was way over here, but if you guys would have backed up a little bit and just waited for them, you could have taken a nice 5-5 here. So this is really what I want Thorn to come away from this game is when to take engagements at all and when to kind of wait for the engagement to happen with regards to whether your teammates are there or whatever. You can dodge these rocks. There you go. This is when you need to be stutter stepping because there's no reason to take all that damage there. And this is a perfect time to practice stutter stepping too. You should be auto attack moving, auto attack moving, auto attack moving. If you're not aware, if you don't know who Kyle Ferguson is, he's a content creator for YouTube. He does really, really good stuff. If you go to his YouTube page, go to YouTube, search for Kyle Ferguson. He has a video that all it does is teach how to stutter step. So that's a really good way to learn how to stutter step. So go search for Kyle Ferguson's YouTube channel on how to stutter step. This, I believe, if I remember right, is your 3rd death that could have been prevented by simply not being here. So Lily is down, your healer is down, you guys do not have level 10 yet, and there are 4 enemies here. So initially you start out behind this fort and kind of poke. That's okay. Eventually you come up here and you put yourself in a really bad position. See, this is fine. Now this is where it's not okay. Look at, you vaulted forward in the middle of 3 enemies to try to secure this kill, and you don't have heroics and they do. Okay, so you do get out here, or do you? Do you re-engage? There's the good kill on the Sonya. Even, I don't remember if you get out of this or not, and even if you, no, you're not going to. So that's 3, I mean, you wouldn't have gotten the Sonya kill, obviously, but that's 3 deaths that could have been avoided by simply not choosing to take that engagement. There's almost never, 99.9% of the time, you should not be fighting when the other team has 10 and you don't. It's not something you ever want to do. Alright, so our hero's back up. And moving down to the team. And once again, by the way, your whole team needs to realize this. Once Lily went down, this engagement is lost. So your whole team should have already been retreating at this point. Okay, once again, you have an aggressive vault, and now you have no escape. So you need to be more judicious with your vault. You should be using it aggressively far less. Do not use it as an engagement tool that we're at excuse me, we're at 4 deaths now that could have been avoided by not taking poor engagements. And a lot of them are you arrive to the battlefield and you E in, you vault in for the bonus damage. Don't use it like that, because then you can't use it to reposition later. You can't use it for an escape. If you want to use your vault for extra damage, you need to use it for either a killing blow, so you're in a pursuit, you're chasing them, and you want to finish them. Like right here, if Sonya were barely any health. Don't get too close. Why are we that close? Back up. Okay, now this is Sonya gets healing off of her whirlwind, so by standing that close to her, you're helping Sonya survive. Back up. There you go. That was a really good vault. Nicely done. So anyway, the only time you want to use vault offensively is in pursuit to land the killing blow or to reposition yourself during a battle. So kind of doing it sideways, but you really don't want to do it forward. Okay, once again, Lily is dead. Look at the health bars. as you're coming in. Lily is dead. Whoever subpar Larsma is, Thrall is going to die. Dahaka is going to die. This is another engagement that we don't want to go into. There you go. So now we're at 5 deaths. Simply because we went into a fight when we shouldn't have. And you can do these, you know, if you ever want to know what went wrong in your game, a lot of the stuff you can really do on your own. This is a big no-no. If you get the curse on the first Hallow, do not go straight to the boss. Your team can get more push done by pushing lanes with the team. The heroes out in lane. If you are going to do a boss during the curse, you do it during the last, like, maybe 10-15 seconds or whatever. But do not do it in the beginning. It's inefficient. And also, this is a waste too. The boss will get this fort by itself. So these 2 heroes for red team don't need to be here. They could be somewhere else.
Red team has destroyed a fort.
Nice range, a really good range, a good W as well. You're keeping your damage on Sonya. All of that was really well done. And that, by the way, was a good use of an offensive right there. Good range. Nice. All of that was really well done there. Your mechanics on Valla are pretty good. It's really the decision making with the vault that I think has shown to be your biggest weakness so far. The mechanics are all there. But also, this is when you can work on your stutter stepping, by the way. Even though it doesn't seem like a big deal because there's nothing really going on around you, it's a good time to practice it when you're murking or you're staying in lane, and it'll eventually just become so much of a second nature that when these team fights happen, you don't need to worry about thinking about doing it. So always be stutter stepping. Always stutter step, even when it's not really necessary. You need to kind of take the mentality of it that it's always necessary. That's a good vault in pursuit right there. Remember I said earlier, that's when you want to use it. That's a good vault to get your damage. Good Rain of Vengeance. That was a really good maul by... Now your team really needs to leave, in my opinion. But one leaning reset can turn this whole thing around. Boy, you guys are so low. Take your win and get out. This is too much kind of pussyfooting around. Because you look at no mana. Zagara just left. This is when you take your leave, right? If you guys would have simply taken this team fight and gone straight to boss, you would have boss. Or gone and cleaned up this, maybe you save this bottom keep. But your team spends a lot of team dancing here in the middle lane, and watch what happens because of it. And this is something that you can do. Try to give your team some leadership. Ping them. And this is what happens when they kind of dance around for no reason. There's nothing you can do for Thrall. I really wouldn't like you to go in there. I think this is death number 6 that could have been avoided by simply not going in there. So we're at 6 deaths this game that could have been avoided by simply assessing the situation better from the get-go.
Blue team dominated.
And this is actually the turning point in the game. You guys had a team fight win here, and if your whole team just would have turned around and gone down here to the boss, you would have gotten a boss, and instead, you guys get 5 wiped and give up the boss, and it's a huge, huge swing in this game. Alright, so Thorn is back, going back into action. There, see, that was a wasted vault. There just wasn't any reason for that. You could have just walked up there. So just be more selective about your vault. I also think your healer made a mistake this game by picking Water Dragon instead of Cups. Our next game is a Lily game, and I'll talk about this a lot in that game, but in my opinion, especially in solo Hero League, Cups is one of the most underrated ultimates in the whole game. And if you watch me stream this at all, I say it a lot. Cups is really, really good. This is one of those wait times. Just wait for your tanks and your front line to get out here. There's no reason to be out in front of them like that. You're just going to take free poke. That was his probably best sundering of the game right there. And then they get a 5-man wailing arrow on you that costs Sylvanas her life. Your team really needs this tribute. You need Curse here, and you want to do it before they get to 20. See, this is actually nicely done. You have your tank anchoring out here for you guys for the zone. Lily should have come into channel. Thrall could have done a zone over here, but this is nice team positioning right here. There's the stall. All that's good stuff. See, now what your team needs to be aware right now is that Zagara got delayed clearing top, which is something she needed to do, so you guys do not have her right now. When you're behind in experience and you get the curse, you can really soak 2 lanes pretty effectively as long as you're careful about it. This, by the way, is actually the perfect, I think this is the example where you take a lot of free leaming poke, and it's simply because you're not stutter stepping. So I'm gonna back up like 5 seconds here. Okay, so watch right here. You're going to come up and you start shooting this tower and just stand there and shoot at it. Characters with skill shots, still targets are significantly easier to hit if you just stand there and give them an easy to hit target. So I want to see you auto attack and move, right here. Watch, you just stand there. How easy is this for Valla to hit? Or I mean, leaming to hit, right here. Right? See, and then you kind of start doing it again. So I get the impression that it's something you're working on and it's not quite second nature yet. So really keep working on it. And Valla is a really good hero to work on your stutter stepping. You want to do it all the time. Always be stutter stepping. And also, actually, if you get proficient, or I should say more proficient at stutter stepping, it will leave you less reliant on your vault for positioning because you'll be moving more. So you won't need to hit that E so much when you don't need to. Right here, all but you stutter stepping. Now you guys are trying to leave. And this is probably your only death, I think, this game that I would say was from... This is your first death so far this game that wasn't from taking an engagement you shouldn't have taken. I mean, you were probably a little too far forward. This was a positioning death, and that's harder to work on, like I said in the beginning. This game we're focusing on just should you have been there in the first place, and in this case, yes, you definitely should have been there with your team pushing. So far right now in this game, you have died 7 times, and 6 of them, 6 of the 7, have been from taking an engagement that you shouldn't have taken in the first place. Okay, when she goes, what's her ult, Wrath? You can't 1v1 Sonya when she has Wrath, and this is really silly of a throw. All of this is all good. Everything here is good. Other than the whiffed rain, obviously, but that happens. You know, you miss ult sometimes. And that was obviously a missed vault, but that would be the situation in which you want to use it when you're in pursuit like that. Even though you hit it into the wall, the idea on it was good. It's too bad your Zagara is not with you. They just stole the boss right out from under you. I think you guys just turn around and leave, which is what you should have done. This is a little bit of a catch-22, because at this point in the game, you cannot let the boss just walk straight up to your core because you'll lose. So you have to engage it out here to do damage on it. You end up dying though, and it's a tough spot. I think your little move there where you went back this way towards Sylvanas may have been the difference, but I think I'm going to chalk this one up as just one of those things. So the final tally, I think he died 8 times in total at the end of this game. So 6 of the 8 deaths were preventable by simply avoiding poor engagements. And imagine if you can cut down your deaths by 2/3 by just being more aware of that. That's a huge, huge difference. So I think that's the #1 takeaway we can take from this game, and the area where Thorn you can make the most improvement the most quickly is deciding when to take engagement. So I really want that to be your focus, that and stutter stepping. And then once you get those down a little more, we can start honing in on the positioning and team fights that's harder to work on. So I don't think we need to follow this one all the way through. It is officially over now. So thanks for submitting that, Thorn. I hope that's helpful. If I seem a little out of it, I'm a little bit under the weather and I'm kind of tired. So, but that was the main things I took away. Really choose your battles more carefully. Really evaluate the situation before just diving into battle. Work on your stutter stepping, and with Valla specifically, I would really like to see you be more conservative with your vault so you have it to get yourself out of trouble when you need it. Because there were a lot of really aggressive vaults this game, and I think it got you into more trouble than it did good. Alright, our next game is a low gold game on Lily. And once again, I watched this one. This person's battle tag is I am not a daredevil, I believe. It is. And while this boots up, I'm going to grab a glass of water real quick. Be back in 1 second. Okay, so we have a Lily this game, and as a solo heal Lily, the way to get the most sheer volume healing is the Serpent build, which our hero does. He does go Serpent build, which is great. Like I said, I've already watched this, which I don't normally, so there's 2 things we're going to focus on. One, I said when I started the stream, I wanted to teach good habits, teach fundamentals that will serve you as you climb the ladder and become a more advanced player, right? At 7, he does not take cleanse, and I think that's a mistake. In Hero League, you don't always need to take cleanse. In Coordinated, it's an absolute must. You have to take cleanse. But in Hero League, it's not. But there are certain heroes that, if you're the support player, you really need to take cleanse on. One of them is the Haka. Okay, so if you're the support and the other team has a Dahaka, you need to take cleanse. Now, people who are in the lower tiers probably aren't going to get the value out of cleanse, but if you're serious about climbing the ladder, it's important that you learn how to use it, so when you get up there, you'll be able to use it to its full potential. So heroes that you need to take cleanse against in Hero League, Dahaka for his drag, Zool for the Bone Prison, Mouth for the Roots, Mosh Pit on ETC, who else? I'm sure there's others, but off the top of my head, Zalo for Expulsion Zone. So those are the big ones though. So build-wise, everything you did was great, except not taking cleanse. I would have liked to have seen cleanse. The other thing I'm not Daredevil, we're going to look at this game is the usage of cups. There's a reason I think Lily is significantly better in solo Hero League than she is in a more coordinated environment. And the reason is, in solo heroes, I think one of the hardest things to do is to simply get your team moving in the same direction, right? Get everybody on the same page. So, and that's because it's 5 randos. You guys don't know each other, you're not on comms. The only ways you have to communicate with each other is typing. And if you're typing too much, that means you're not doing stuff in game. So there's not much you can communicate by typing. So the only real ways you're going to communicate, especially in the context of a team battle, when stuff's going on, you can't stop and type, are pings and body language. Those are your communications. So I think certain heroes in Hero League, solo Hero League, do better because they are loud. And one of the heroes that's really loud is like ETC, he power slides in, he isolates somebody out, that's loud, right? But the other one is Cups. Cups sends a message to your team, if you do it at the right time, that we need to go now. We're not going to lose. So most of the time when I do these Lily reviews, I'm telling people they're popping Cups too late. You need to do it earlier. In my opinion, the right time to pop Cups in the context of a 5-on-5 team fight is when your team is at just above about half health. Because what that tells them is, when you pop it there, is that you don't need to worry about falling low in life. You don't need to worry about falling low in life, because I'm going to heal you so we can go and win this team fight. If you wait until they're too low, they're already retreating, and then it becomes a disengage tool instead of an engagement tool. So Cups sends the message that we are going to engage hard, and that's one of the reasons I like it. It's big, it's loud, and it easily conveys the message to your team, if you use it at the right time, that we can take this fight and we're going to win. I Am Daredevil uses it about half the time in this game, but he's the first person that I've seen doing these analyses, where he actually pops it too early. That's pretty unusual. Right? So there's 2 or 3 times this game he pops it too early and doesn't get full value out of it. And if you look at Blue Team, it is going to be very difficult for them to interrupt Cups if Lily is positioned properly, because she shouldn't be close enough for the Dahaka, she shouldn't be close enough for the Bright Calling War. So really, every time Lily uses Cups this game, it should be 100% full value. The other thing to be aware of Lily is Lily has mana issues, so you want to make sure you communicate to your team when you're running low on mana. But other than those things, I'm not Daredevil. There wasn't a whole lot that I saw that really jumped out at me as like glaring things that you weren't doing wrong. You didn't really jump into bad engagements or anything like that. So it's going to be Cups usage this game, and I would actually encourage you to send me another game that's maybe on a not support hero, where we can look at some other different things, because Lily is kind of one of the more basic heroes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have, like, one of my highest win rate heroes is Lily. She's awesome. She does a lot of things well. But you seem to have a pretty good grasp of her timing of Cups usage, and then when you get around to it, send me another one, and we can maybe see if we can focus in on some other things on a different hero in a different role. And he mentioned in his email to me that he just broke into gold, so congratulations with that. It's always a really awesome feeling when you finally climb a tier. And like what your team does here, this is a really good illustration of what I talked about last game, actually, and one of the differences between bronze and even low-level gold, right? Red team, they see the mini-map, they know they're not at the advantage right now, and these 3 kind of just hold position until their reinforcements arrive. Watch this. They just kind of hang out here, they clear the lane, they do take a little bit too much free damage, but nobody really does anything until Rainer gets here. Now we can get a little more aggressive, right? Really nicely done by the red team. They waited for the reinforcements, and then when they arrived, that's when they went really good. And we commented in the first one, if you watch this ETC mechanically, this ETC is really, really good. He lands his power slides, base melt combo really nicely. His body blocks are really good. His issue is he does not have great map awareness, because a lot of times he does it. Like ETC carries this whole fight here. Really, really nice to watch. But there's a couple times where he does it and nobody's around, so it just doesn't do anything. So this ETC is a really good example of a really mechanically skilled player on his particular hero, but with not particularly great map awareness. See, and this is perfect. See, I really like this Cubs usage here, because you guys literally just got it, and you're like, let's just top everybody off. We'll all be at full health, and we'll be raring to go. Full value out of it. Really, really nice Cubs usage. And ETC is saying you guys need to get down here. That is not correct. If the whole team comes down here, that leaves you guys with a severe lack of vision. You really need to only have 1 or 2 people on the temple, and the rest of the team you want to be here in lane to make sure they don't get ambushed. You need to have a presence out here to keep track of where the enemy team is. Now at 10, they're probably not coming in here anyway, but do not 5-stack in the temple with no vision in the lane. This, by the way, is what I want to see Lily telling me about doing what she can. And you do. I prefer to type it, but you do let them know.
Magic.
I also tell them not only that I'm low on mana, but that I'm leaving. Let them know that I'm leaving. And this is on your teammates for engagement. And they shouldn't have. And this is actually another good illustration that I talked about last game. I am Daredevil, or not Daredevil. He knows he can do anything here. But he just doesn't. He just doesn't do anything. And this is an example of ETC charging in with nothing, like nothing's going to happen here. He's got no follow-up. Whereas if he would have waited and interacted here, I know what you were trying to do. I'm not Daredevil. That was really, a lot of that was on ETC. Sometimes you can't cure your teammates of silly decisions. So we're not gonna grade that Cubs usage there. That was you trying to save your teammate from stupid. And you guys need to be aware of how far forward you are. And that's nice, you get the fountain, you get out. And your team really shouldn't be taking any kind of engagement without ETC. The other thing ETC does this game, which I don't particularly like, is he goes into flanking position too much, and it means he's not in a position to tank. But really nice setup on the right wing there. And you can see this by the way, we're gonna look at ETC here, because we're going to learn from everybody. This is a textbook example of how ETC is supposed to engage. Watch how he gets on the bright wing. You see a lot of lower level players, they power slide and they face melt. 1, 2, boom, boom. You don't need to do them one right after the other. You need to wait. If you can body black, all the better. So watch. Okay, so there's the stun at maximum range. If he hits the W right away, he actually pushes Brightwing away from the team, which is not what he wants. So during this stun, ETC walks around the other side to get in a position to body block. Now he power slides. Great usage, and it peels the tank away from helping Brightwing. I don't know why you would ever use the clone on Brightwing. This clone is completely wasted. Completely wasted. This is kind of a weird place where you use cups because you only have 2 of your well, only 1. Rainer can heal himself up. See, this is one that I don't like because look at how high ETC and Rag are. So you're basically getting 0 healing onto them. You're getting 0 healing onto yourself. I would have waited till probably about here because they would have been a little bit lower. This is not a terrible cup, but a little bit too early and not completely maximized. I think if you would have waited about 2 seconds, you would have gotten more healing out of that cup. Because basically on ETC, and this is a really nice monster. Too bad you guys are all really low, but... Nice job tapping the fountain before it's dead. And the correct move is to simply go get bottom temple right here. I don't normally like to clear lanes as Lily simply because it takes her so long to do it. But if nobody else on your team is going to do it and it needs to be done, you got to do it. So. This is another instance. ETC needs to wait. If he waits about 3, I think in this specific team fight it becomes a problem too. If he waits like 3 seconds to give his team a chance to catch to him, this would have gone really well. But look how far out forward he goes. No wait, no rag, no rag. See, I like his patience. Maybe it's later on that he does it. No rag, no rag. And you guys are waiting for him, which is great. Also, he wasted the evolution. You guys, if you wait out the evolution, it becomes a waste too. Now Rag is coming. Now you get him. Now you get in like through the. Sorry, this was another cups. I think this is the one I really didn't like. I like that you're popping it too early instead of too late. That's good. But we're gonna look at the health bars as soon as you pop it. Watch for the health bars on. I mean, you're just not going to get in that. Whereas if you would have waited for the engagement just to get underway just a little bit more. Because look, they're all full. So all these full health bars are not getting, like you're basically getting no healing on Alarak here. You're getting very little on yourself in these two. Once again, another 1 or 2 seconds, the timing would have been really, really good. Not terrible. Not terrible by any stretch. And now, look right here. All their damage just went down right after cups ended. The other thing you have to worry about if you pop cups too early, smart teams will simply wait it out. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but blue team kind of waited out a lot of that damage because as soon as cups ended, you saw a lot of leaming damage come out. So just touch another second or 2 later, and you'll get really perfect mileage out of that cup. And this was actually really intelligent decision making by both teams until Brett didn't get picked here. So once the green clone expired, red team invaded and blue team left. If blue team would have just left, because once that clone expires, they're 5-on-4, right? They're 5-on-4. So blue team did a nice job of withdrawing, red team did a nice job of invading, and then blue team made a silly mistake and tried to re-invade. That was Wallace's decision. Nice power slide on Spider-CC. He probably saved Lily's life there because even though Zool Jin is unkillable, he is not unstoppable, so you can still stun him and blind him. So that was a really nice power slide by ETC. This boss took entirely too much time. I don't mind this usage at all. I actually thought this was really good cut. That allows you to continue to tank this boss. And this, okay, so Dahakas do not blindly brush stalk when you know the enemy team is right there. They literally, the boss just got picked up by red team, so you know there's some down here, and look what he does. What do you think's going to happen here? And that was perfectly predictable. That was a really poor decision by Dahaka to burrow in. I actually really like ETC's call here to push. I really like ETC's call here to push. I don't think you guys do it. But this is smart. You guys go down to push there, your team doesn't come, and you leave. That's really good decision making. A lot of people would have forced that at the bottom, and it's really good that you guys didn't force it. So that was really well played. Sometimes the best things are the one things you don't do. This is a fight you guys want to take if they'll take it. Li Ming is in the bottom, and you guys have a 17 to 15 advantage. That's a huge talent advantage. But this is what I'm talking about here. I don't like ETC in this flanking position because that leaves your team without a tank. So he's definitely flanking too much. ETC's mobility means he does not need to be in a flanking position to be effective. He can still be in the front line and be effective. I think this touch was a little bit early too, but you were pretty low, so that one was fine. Actually, no, I'm going to go look at that one again. I'm a little tired. I think that one may have been spot on. We're going to look at it one more time. Okay. I think a little early, because this is literally the instant that you popped it. And Rag is at full health, so that means he's getting 0 healing right now. Who is that down there? RN Jesus is at full health, so he's getting 0 healing right now. So this is another one where I would have waited to probably right here, right about here. Well, right when the damage starts actually going out, because there was 2 heroes that you weren't healing for the first second to second and a half of that. And now it ends right here, but imagine if you had another second on the back end of this, or a second and a half, you would have gotten more mileage out of it. So. I don't think it ends up mattering. I think you guys still win this team fight. It's all really, really low. I would see you guys are too. I think maybe too low to fight this. I don't remember what happens here. Teaming resets are just brutal. So either get in there or don't. See, there's one reset. There's 2 resets. And all of that, you guys won the team fight, but you were all so low, you could have gone and gotten this top temple or mercs or whatever, but I think you guys were too low to re-engage. Yeah, not only were you too low to re-engage that, but your team did it. This isn't you, this is like a team thing. You did it very piecemeal and not decisively at all. You kind of trickled in there and were kind of couldn't decide whether you wanted to go or not, and in the end you guys should have never gone in there at all. And I think this is where I commend you. This is a really good example of when doing nothing is the right move, because you can't do a lot right now, so I like that you're just taking laps around the temple, or around the fort there. And this is good patience. You guys need to wait for Raynor and Ragnaros, right? So good patience on your team, waiting for everybody to get there. Getting the vision is a good idea. But once again, look, ETC is in this flanking position. This ETC had a really, like, mixed bag game. He had some really great moments. This is the cups you had to use, otherwise you were going to die. So, nicely done. But yeah, this ETC, this game has had some really, really great moments and some really mediocre moments too. Even though that started out slightly awkward, you guys turned it around nicely. Your team, when you guys are around ETC, your team does a really nice job of following up with his initiates, which is fantastic. Yeah, this is one of the problems with Lily, is that she's just so mana intensive. But you're, a lot of people don't know when to go back, or simply don't go back. You show a pretty good understanding of when you should and shouldn't be going back to base to fill up on mana. Oh, the other thing is, you do pick Shrink Ray. When you pick Shrink Ray, make sure you know who your priority target is. It's not just movement speed, their damage is lowered by 50 seconds. So in this case, your priority target should be Zul Jin, or target somebody who you're trying to kill, and that movement speed will make the difference. So try to get maximum mileage out of that Shrink Ray by prioritizing high damage auto attackers and people who are trying to get away, so you get that extra slow on them. This is a good fight for you guys too, because you're at 20 and they're not. See, this is a good example of what I wanted to see from ETC the whole game. He's in the front line. He's establishing that front line for your team, not off in some bush hiding off to the side, leaving you guys for your own devices. This is where the tank should be most of the time, in the front line. And you guys are doing a really nice job of hugging him here. Waiting for ETC to make his move and then following up on it. I don't know what Alarak is doing here. That was a really weird position for him. Yep. I would have liked to have seen this Cups a little earlier. I think this one might have been a little late. I think he may have been stunned out though, so. And don't take this as me picking on the Cups as just finding something to pick on. Very few, I think only one of these Cup pieces is what I'd call bad. They're all good, but every little thing you can find to improve on is a big deal. If you're a squishy here, no, it doesn't matter here because they're all dead, but another thing you can take from this is knowing your role determines your positioning on the boss. So if you're your team's tank, in this case ETC should be on the aggressive side of the boss, and all of the squishy characters should be on the conservative side of the boss. That way, if the enemy team does invade, they catch the tank first, not the squishy. I said in this case it doesn't matter because they're all dead, but something to think about is your positioning on a boss when it's possible for the enemy to invade. Tanks position aggressively, squishier characters position less aggressively. All of this is good primarily because you guys finally have a good team cohesion. Team's going in the right direction. You do leave ETC out to dry here. You guys could have gone with him, but not the end of the world. That was a really nice Emerald win by Brightwing, and I like this Cups as well. Keep everybody at full health, no doubt. And this sends a message. You notice as soon as you pops that Cups, everybody moves forward, and that's what I'm talking about. It sends the message to your team, let's go do this. That was a really nice Cups. So really, I'm not a daredevil. I don't think there was too much to take from this game. I thought you played really well. Your communication was pretty good. Your cup usage was good. Maybe a little room for improvement there. I would like to see you take cleanse and look at the Haka on the other team to start making full usage of that talent. And yeah, send in another one so we can maybe take a look at a character that's a little more demanding, or a role that's a little more demanding with regards to decision making. But this was a really, I thought, a really nice game by you. You played really clean. Your damage on Lily, I mean, 25,000 is actually maybe a tiny bit low, but you didn't go the damage build. You went the Serpent build, which is her healing output build. And look at the healing output, 99,000 healing compared to Brightwing's 25,000. That's a really big deal. You didn't die once the whole game, and that's the number one thing I tell players when I do this. If you want to get better, die less. So a really nice game all around. You were where you needed to be. You were with your team. Really nice, solid team play all around. Sorry about the late stream, guys. Like I said, we had some issues yesterday. So thanks for tuning in, those of you that were here. And to I Am Not a Daredevil and Thorn, I will send you these YouTubes. Everybody have a wonderful evening.